G'day guys, how are you going? It has been a while. I've had a lot going on in my life between uni and work and finding jobs and holiday and getting bored of World of Tanks. But I'm slowly getting back. Well, we're back from that episode. Holy shit. Anyway, I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things, so you'll be seeing probably a bit more of me over the next month or so, because I think it's time to start making more videos, and also I am jeopardizing my place in the community contributor program, but that's not why I'm making this video. Anyway, the news you've probably heard is that the matchmaking system is being modified. We don't really know the specifics of it, we just know that things are actually going to be changing, and so I don't know, I'm pretty excited for that because no one here, you don't like the 357 matchmaking, I don't like the 357 matchmaking, wargaming doesn't, like, no one likes it. Yeah, so we don't have the details really of what's pretty much going to happen, but we do know what's going to happen with preferential matchmaking tanks, and that's where this video comes in, and that's why you pressed on this video, because you want to know, fam, which tanks you should get in your garage because they're going to be sick and they're probably going to be relatively overpowered as well. So let's go straight into it by having a look at the tanks. I'll give you a brief overview of what's going to happen and whether or not you should buy the tanks after they're having their buffs. Now, I should say as well, as a full disclaimer, these stats are always likely to change, but I think that the general kind of changes are gonna happen regardless. So let's start off with the KV5. The KV5. Right now, the KV5 is a dog. Slow, riddled with weak spots, and a very low penetration gun. This tank is pretty awful. But after its incoming buffs, you will definitely want this tank. With an increased shell penetration to 182 millimeters, the KV5 will still very much struggle to penetrate tier 8 and 9 heavy tanks without the use of premium ammo. However, with a huge change to the aiming time from 2.9 seconds down to 2.3 seconds, the KV5 will be able to aim for weak spots and snapshots better than ever. But what is really exciting is the decrease in the KV5's frontal weak spots, which was definitely what made this tank a meme-only tank to play. This tank is definitely a buy if it goes on sale, because really, we know that the KV5 doesn't go for sale very often at all. The IS-6. The IS-6 used to be the scariest tank on the battlefield, but right now it is useless against any tank with remotely any armor. And unfortunately still, it's not going to get much better against tier 8 and tier 9 heavy tanks especially. However, it does get much better gun performance with an increase in standard penetration to 182 millimeters from 175 millimeters, and a much needed increase in its premium shell penetration to 225 millimeters. At least now it has a chance to penetrate enemy tanks. Even better is the awesome decrease in aiming time from 3.4 seconds to 2.8 seconds, which, although is still high, is way better than it was. And the turret on this thing is being improved greatly, though the specifics are not yet known. And this is important because, in my opinion, what makes this tank so bad is the huge turret weak spot on the tank. If you have a look at the turret roof armor schematics, you can see that the armor is only 30 millimeters on its roof, and that means any tank with a gun caliber of 91 millimeters or higher, which is very common at tier 8 and tier 9, can easily overmatch the armor and penetrate the tank without any issue. If this has not changed, then I say stay away from the IS-6, because there are definitely other tanks out there which will simply perform substantially better tier for tier. And no doubt that the IS-6 will still have very troll armor, but don't think it's gonna go very well against people who have some experience in the game. The FCM-50T. The heavy medium tank that is the FCM-50T is about to become a heavy light tank. Its lack of frontal armor, although not actually half bad against most tier 6 and 7 tanks, is about to be dismissed because of the insane increase in the horsepower to ton ratio from an already great 19.5 horsepower to ton to an insane 23 horsepower to ton. This will make the FCM 50T the fastest accelerating heavy tank in the game, and it will become an even better ramming device. And its gun, which was arguably the best part of this tank because of its awesome penetration, is having a 10% DPM increase to 2100 damage per minute, which is absolutely crazy. I'll just leave it at, if you don't have this tank in your garage, you'll regret it once the changes come through. The Chinese 112. Always known to be a slightly worse version of the IS-6, the 112, in my opinion, still remains the worst option. It has also had its penetration increased to 182mm, which is going to struggle, like the IS-6, against tier 8 and tier 9 heavy tanks frontally. And its premium heat shells has had a small buff in their shell velocity to 720 meters per second, meaning that it will be easier to hit tanks at a distance while they're on the move. Furthermore, its DPM has been increased to 1850 damage points, which is about a 5% increase over its current DPM, but it's still an underperformer when placed with the IS-6, especially because of its substantially worse DPM, its armor, and its modules always being destroyed from the front, especially the ammo rack and the fuel tanks. It is so annoying to get penetrated in the front of that tank. So I would suggest not purchasing the 112, even with its current plan changes, because really the tank is still an underperformer, especially when you compare it to things like the IS-6. Another Chinese heavy tank, the WZ-111. The WZ-111 was never a bad tank to begin with strong frontal armor, good speed, and a very average 122mm Russian gun clone. So Wargaming knows this, and so its changes have been very minimal. The only changes to the tank is that it's had its shell penetration increased to, you guessed it, 182mm from 175mm, and its heat premium shells has had its velocity increased to 720 meters per second. This tank has always been a fun option if you wanted an above average premium credit maker, and with its new changes, it's still an overachiever. So I would suggest, if you're looking for a fun runabout tank, WZ-111 is a great tank to buy, and in my opinion, a more fun tank to play than, say, the IS-6. The M6A2E1, also known as the Mutant. The M6A2E1, in my opinion, is one of the greatest tier 8 premium tanks that has been for sale, period. Its frontal armor is stupidly strong, even against most premium rounds that it will come up against, and its gun is one of the best preferential matchmaking guns. So I'm kind of against these changes because this tank is about to become a whole lot stronger. The penetration is being increased to 204mm from 198mm, with its hull traverse being greatly buffed to 28 degrees per second from 24 degrees per second, which will make circling this tank not as easy as before. Its turret traverse dispersion is being buffed from 0.18 to 0.16, and if you don't know what that means, it pretty much just means that firing while the turret is moving will be more accurate. But it's the improvements to the overall armor which is what will make this tank even better. Now, we don't yet know what these changes will be, but in my opinion, this tank really doesn't need much of a frontal armor buff. Regardless, with these changes, I say buy this one. Even without it, I couldn't recommend this tank enough. The T34-3. I love the T34-3. It is by far my favorite tier 8 medium tank. This tank has had so many buffs since it was originally introduced, with great changes in its gun depression, strong turret and frontal armor, and gun handling buffs. And here we are now with some further pretty awesome buffs. The gun penetration is being increased to 182mm, like all the other Russian 122mm gun tanks, with its heat premium shells having its shell velocity increase to, again, 720 meters per second. But really, what is going to make this tank an absolute beast is the 6.5 degrees of gun depression from 5 degrees of gun depression. This is a huge increase in gun depression and will make this tank crazy strong when it is in a hull down position. For sure, buy this one. I really don't think you guys will regret that. The Type 59. The Type 59 is one of those tanks that was completely loved until Power Creep made it one of the worst performing medium tanks at Tier 8. Like the T34-3, the Type 59 has experienced a few buffs which has made it way more effective on the battlefield. And so these new buffs will make this tank way more competitive with the latest medium tanks at Tier 8. The Type 59 will have its horsepower to ton ratio increased to 15.5 from 14 horsepower to ton, with an improved aiming time as well of 2.1 seconds from 2.3 seconds. Also, the DPM will be increased very slightly to 1,775, which is from 1,725, and that will allow for a slightly better effectiveness on the battlefield. The biggest change is the possible minor improvement to the Type 59, with an emphasis on possible. Clearly, Wargaming are unsure whether they will increase the armor of the Type 59, and with that, I say don't buy it. I think that for most people, if the armor is not buffed, they will enjoy playing the T34-3 with almost the exact same armor profile way more than they will enjoy playing the Type 59. The T26E4 Super Pershing. The Super Pershing is one of those tanks that are very noob friendly, lovingly dubbed the Riot Shield by you guys, the World of Tanks community. This tank is really a heavy tank that you drive headfirst into the enemy team. The Super Pershing is having its penetration increased from 192mm to 202mm, with an increased DPM from 1750 to 1800. But interestingly, its horsepower to ton is being increased by 20% to 12 horsepower to ton, which will make a major difference to how this tank feels when it's played. It's still going to be very slow, but it's going to be way faster than it was, that's for sure. And being one of the cheapest premium tanks to buy, I think it's great value for money, especially if you just want a credit maker. So I'd say buy this one. The other tanks, like the more expensive T34-3, are a better buy in the sense that they're more fun to play. But if you don't want to spend that much money, then this is a really great way to kind of enter in to the premium tank world. The 88cm Pack 43 Jagdtiger, otherwise easily known as the Jagdtiger 88. Jagdtiger 88 was actually my first premium tank, which I bought to be a major credit maker, and it's about to become a whole lot better at doing so. Its gun is having its penetration buffed to 212mm from 203mm, and its aiming time of 2 seconds is being buffed to 1.8 seconds, which is absolutely crazy. This tank will be an even more amazing sniper. The reverse speed of the Jagdtiger 88 is also being buffed to 14 km per hour from 12 km per hour, which will make a marginal difference to its gameplay performance, and the health pool is being increased from 1300 to 1400. Now, whether to buy this one or not, I would say consider it. It's still got very strong frontal armor, but it's also slow. And it's difficult to play in many situations such as open maps, which it seems are more increasingly there. Its main benefit though is that it's an awesome credit maker, so I don't know, I'd still say consider it. I think it's a great tank on the one hand, but it can very easily be overpowered, so just think about it. Again guys, stats are subject to change, so what I say now, it might change and they might not even go ahead with it, although I really do think that they're gonna go ahead and make similar, if not the exact same changes that they're proposing. Now, if you guys disagree with me, and I'm sure many of you will, please just let me know and let everyone else know what you're thinking down in the comment section below. It'll be really interesting to read what you guys think, but I think that for me, that list is pretty accurate. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new and you want to see the same content, show me a bit of love. I'll catch you next time.